Howdy, everybody. Pup here for my weekend review. Just to get some formalities out of the way, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. I'm merely presenting these ideas of charts as educational material. So now that we've said that, very interesting price action last week. We're seeing new highs here on the SPY, QQQ and Tech looking strong, and IWM still stuck a little bit in a range. So let's just take a quick look here for the SPY. You see, as I mentioned, we did make new highs here. I do have an upwards target of 453, which is our 4236 extension off of a previous swing high, swing low. So, we have a nice channel that we've been forming in, making highs, higher low, new highs, higher low, and looking for maybe another new high, higher low, and then possibly that last push up to that 453. Where we go from there, is anyone's guess, but like we do in any chart and any day of trading, we just take it day by day. Next up are the Qs, QQQ. Kind of a similar story here, making a series of higher lows, right? Higher low here, higher low here. So, when we have that extension up, we have the pullback. We have an extension up, we have a pullback. We're extending up here. So whether we come into this level here before we get that pullback, again, anyone's guess, but we've had 4 green days. We had a red day on Monday and then 4 nice green days up leading into Friday. Did create this channel up here, which if I extended this back would start over here. So I do think for the Qs, what I would look for this week is just maybe another possible couple of days of continuation and maybe some consolidation, but possibly, in the next 2 weeks, coming up and testing this 379 to 382 region. You could see RSI did get overbought and we started to pull back. But when you make these types of moves and RSI comes back to 50 and doesn't even touch and starts to bounce, and we have this little dip here, which I believe was around a 236 retracement from this swing low to this swing high, that's pretty bullish if you ask me. So I do think we will test this in the next 2 weeks. The one area of lagging that I'm seeing that I'm waiting to start to kick off is small caps. So you can see, in small caps here, we did have a nice push higher, and we've been stuck in a range from this 207.78 to 235.51. And so, this is just chop. This is all chop right here. So very difficult in trading small caps in the last, let's just say 6 to 7 months. So what I would like to see is as the QQQ and the SPY are making new highs, if we want to see a continuation rally and see a full market push, we do need for IWM and the small caps to really start to move. And I don't think we will see that until we break 235.51. Once we break 235.51, then we could start seeing these targets of 242 and 251 to the upside. But we'll be patient. The one thing to note, we are in a nice volume shelf right here. So we're building a beautiful shelf. The question then becomes, is this acting as a launch pad, or will it eventually just become a supply zone if we break down? So that's basically what I'd be looking for. So let's talk about some charts. So for this week, really going to focus on a lot of the tech stocks. We're going to have a lot of earnings this week. So let's take a look at Apple first. And you'll note that I do have my earnings indicator on from TrendSpider. And so you see anything that has this E and the dotted line, that's going to be our earnings marker. So let's dive into the charts here. So Apple has been really strong for, the last couple of weeks. It's had a nice run into the earnings this coming week. And so what I'd be looking for is a break over 150.25. We have some extensions up here from 3 different swing high, swing lows. So those would be, in essence, my short-term targets. But I think obviously, earnings is really going to dictate where this trade is going to go. Same thing really with Amazon. We did finally break out of this consolidation box, consolidation zone that we've been in for about a year now. And so we broke out. You saw we have a false breakout back here, right? Didn't have any daily closes outside of the box, but we finally got this big breakout. And I always like to use that analogy of looking at this high right here as a brick wall. And these 2 days is you took that sledgehammer to the wall and you made a dent and you made another dent, but you couldn't break a hole. And so finally we broke through here. We made a nice hole, but we came back up and we retested it to see, are we ready to break out? And it looked like so far we are. But again, with earnings coming up this week, I think that's really going to determine if we go back into our consolidation box or we start to break up higher. If we do start to break up higher, I would be targeting this fib cluster up here in the 4,000 range. Okay, moving on is CRM. So CRM has, again, been in a bit of a downtrend. You can see, we have finally started to break this downtrend here. We broke out, we broke this swing high anchored VWAP, we retested it here and bounced back up. So I like CRM over 250.56. If we can break that level and then close over these two candles here, I think first target 257, then 265, then 275 to the upside. Waiting for RSI to break out, but you do see we have a nice squeeze setting up. So you can see back here, we had a squeeze setting up and we had a nice push and from that squeeze. So I'd be watching for this squeeze momentum to start pushing to over zero and see if we get that breakout with RSI breaking out. If we get all that confluence, we do have earnings, I believe, next week. So let's see if we can get a little bit of an earnings run out of CRM. Next up is Etsy. So Etsy started to break out here. Did take a trade on this Thursday into Friday. It was a nice trade. I'm already out, but we do have a 618 retracement zone from that swing high to that swing low. I think 214 will be a contentious level, but if we could break above that, then we can start coming up to this 1618 extension and the 786 retracement in this 225 to 230 zone. And then hopefully if we can get past that, then we're going to come back up to all-time highs here at 251. No squeezes to note. And RSI did come back down to 50 and bounce, so looking pretty strong here on Etsy. Next up is Facebook. Facebook, another one that's had a pretty strong run over the last couple of weeks. You could see, oh, one second, let me fix the chart real quick. You can see we've been in a nice channel for a couple of months now, and then last week we had this really beautiful push. So what I'd watch for is we do have earnings again early. Can we break our channel here over 389? Or possibly do we get an earnings push to test 389? This would be the level that I would be watching. Over 389, then I think we're testing 400, 402. Little minor squeeze popped off. Again, RSI came back down to 50 and bounced. We're seeing a lot of charts that have been making those kinds of moves. So next up is Google, another one that had a really nice week last week. Again, red first day on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Nice push up Friday with a really big push up right into this 200% extension at 2674. Again, earnings, I think Monday or Tuesday. So, that's really going to determine, again, do we push up on earnings into the top of the channel, or does it push us back down to the bottom of the channel? Next up is Goldman Sachs. So Goldman Sachs, I am anchoring down to this November low. We are already past earnings, so I'm going to keep an eye on this. It did show some strength last week. We had a Indecisive candle here on Friday, spinning top, but we do have a squeeze setting up. RSI is holding over 50, but what I would watch for is a break over this wedge and a test of all-time highs here at 393. I think over 393, we really can start to get going, get that 400 test, and possibly 405 in the next week or two. Next up is HD. HD had this massive run from March to end of April, and then we had a very big pullback. I think if I run, and let's see, I can't do my extension here. Let's do a retracement here. So the retracement was right into this 50% to 382 zone. It is very healthy pullback here. And so I do expect this to potentially make its way back up, at least for a test of that all-time high here at 345. So you have our 786 extension at 334. And then over that, I would look for that 344, 345. RSI is breaking out. Had a quick squeeze set up and fire, so watch for a continuation on Home Depot. The next up is Net. Net has this massive broadening formation, and you can see into the top of the formation here, we had a flag set up, flag breakout, came right into that 1618 extension at 117. We broke it and held over it. I'd watch for a test of the top of this broadening formation. You can see RSI is overbought, but we are getting a one dot squeeze fired on the TTM squeeze. So could be an interesting continuation. I think we have earnings next week, or excuse me, in 2 weeks. So let's see if we can get a continuation and a possible test of this 130 region before we hit earnings. Next up is NVIDIA. So NVIDIA did have their split. I like NVIDIA over 200. You could see we came somewhat close to it on Thursday and then printed an indecisive candle on Friday. So from our swing low to our swing high, we had almost a perfect 382 pullback. So that's kind of what caught my attention. We came right back down to 50 RSI, held it and bounced. No squeezes to note, but I think over 200, we're breaking this down channel right here. And then I would watch for an all-time high test on NVIDIA. Next up is Peloton. So Peloton has had a really strong breakout here. It could be due to the resurgence of the Delta variant of COVID. These closing stocks are starting to see, Peloton, Zoom, the stay-at-home type of stocks. So I would keep a really close eye on Peloton, from this swing low to this swing high, again, 382 pullback. And then we had a break over this flag and then a retest, and what it looks like is a rising broadening formation. So what I'd be looking for this week is a possible break over 125. If we can get that one test of 130, I was like the 129, 130 level, then I think that opens us up to test 135 next week. We do have earnings in September, so it's quite a ways for that to go. So I would potentially watch for, Peloton to make a kind of a move like that, looking to test that 150 level. Round number psychological levels are also, when you get close to them, I would say over 135, they tend to act as magnets. So that's what I would be watching for on Peloton. Next up is Roku. Not much to say about Roku. Very, very nice flag. Massive breakout on Friday. Caught probably half of this move. It was so difficult to stay in this. Not difficult to stay in it, but difficult not to take profits as it kept pushing higher. Was able to roll a couple of times, but definitely got the meat, but not the entire burger. And that's, of course, what we preach as far as trading. So let's see if this coming week, when you have a really big candle like this, Oftentimes you're going to get a little bit of consolidation following it, but with tech running and tech being strong, we're just becoming over bought. TTM squeeze had a minor setup and a fire. Momentum looks like it's shifting to the zero line. I think we test 486.72 this week. And from there, let's see where we go. We do have earnings in a couple of weeks. So we might get a break of all-time highs here. And let's see if we do where Roku will run to next. Next up is SE. So a lot of these names that we haven't talked about, they're starting to set up really nicely. I did mention on Friday some really nice setups happening. Nice bounce on 50 on the RSI. Squeeze is setting up, fired one dot on Friday. We're right at all-time highs here. We broke it on Friday and then pulled right back to this 297.66. Looks like we closed at 297.65. I think the easiest thing to do, wait for 300. You could do the 305 calls over 300. I would target probably 311.38, which is our 1272 extension from this swing high to that swing low. And that's how I would play SE. Next up is Shop. Beautiful broadening formation breakout here on Friday. You can see high, higher high, low, lower low, gives us that broadening formation. You get the breakout of the formation here over a 1272 extension at 1636. Beautiful confluent breakout. You also had RSI breaking out. You had a one dot squeeze firing on the TTM squeeze. So let's look for a continuation here on Shop. Again, earnings this week, so we probably can run maybe 1 or 2 days, and then let's see what happens with earnings. Next up is Snap. Not much to say about Snap. They absolutely crushed earnings, massive push up on earnings, beautiful continuation through earnings on the next day, right into our 1618 extension at 78.13, closed at 77.99, RSI just getting overbought, no squeezes to note. But I would say, 80 to 83 is in the cards this week on a continuation. But when you have big moves like this, you have to expect at least some consolidation and possibly a pullback before pushing higher. It's very healthy for stocks to do that. So if you're not already in, what I'm trying to say is don't be the buyer up here. There really is no reason to FOMO into this chart, especially with the way Snap has been trading for the last 6 to 12 months. It's very choppy in regards to it. So very interested to see if we could finally get a continuation move up on Snapchat. So let's talk a little bit about Square. So Square, another one that has been consolidating in between this 200 to 260 region for the last 5 to 6 months. So we're coming up to the top of our channel here. So you see a high, a lower high. We're coming into another lower high here. So where we break the pattern is over 278.16. Over 278.16, I think we test all-time highs and then potentially make a run at 300 in the next 1 to 2 months. So it is looking pretty good. RSI not quite overbought yet. We do have a one dot squeeze firing on TTM. So what I'd be watching for is a break over this down channel. If we get that break, then we can test, as I mentioned, 278 and above. But if we see weakness here, I'm not saying we're coming all the way back down to 180, but it's certainly possible that we need to reset before we test again. So that's what I'd be looking for on Square. Next up is Team. Team is a beautiful flag set up here, has not broken out yet. I would watch for a break above all-time highs and potentially watch this 276.93 region. We do have a nice pullback on RSI. We have a squeeze setting up, so Team is looking pretty good. Tesla's been really, really choppy. We have a bit of a flag formation here, a bit of a pennant. Excuse me, not a flag. So two things I would be watching for on earnings. I think it was Monday after the close. If we fail and have lower than expected earnings,
I would watch for a move down to the 600 or possibly 570 region. If we have a good earnings, then I would look for a move up to 700 and possibly the 744 region. Tesla has been really choppy for the last couple of months, so it's been difficult to swing trade. It's been some opportunities to play the levels intraday, but really what I'm looking for is a definitive earnings that gives us a direction. Whether that's up or down, to me, I don't really care. If it goes down, then we play it to the downside. If it goes up, then we play it to the upside. I would just like for Tesla to finally decide what it wants to do. Next up is TCD. So after TCD split, not much happening, still consolidating in a bit of a range, but it looks like on Friday we broke our down channel. So I would be watching. We do have a squeeze setting up. We did have an RSI bounce at 50. So I would watch for a move over this previous high here. Let's just say over Friday's high, 82.49. We can target this 85 to 86 region right here. Next up is Twilio. Nice cup and handle forming here on Twilio. We did get a breakout on Friday. If we hold over 400, then I do think in time we should start to see a move up towards this 441 level. Again, RSI down to 50, nice bounce. TTM squeeze setting up. Next up is UPS. UPS, we have a inverse head and shoulders setting up. RSI has not broken out yet, but we just had a squeeze starting to set up. Let's watch. We had a bearish engulfing candle on Friday, but let's watch UPS this coming week. We do have earnings. Earnings will either cause us to break out or potentially to invalidate our right shoulder. So going to be keeping a close eye on UPS this week. And last but not least is Zscaler. Zscaler had a flag breakout, and this is really textbook beautiful to see. So you had a nice flag forming right here, right? You got the breakout of the flag here. You get the perfect retest, and then you get the bounce. This is what I call the BRB setup. Breakout, retest, bounce. Does not get any better than that. Usually when you have a flag breakout like this, my first target is right here at 230. That's exactly what we hit. You can see as we first tested it, you got resistance for those 3 tags or 4 tags, fell back, but made a higher low here. And that allowed us to test it again and break out. So what I'd be watching for on Zscaler is potentially a retest of the breakout at 230 and then a push off, another BRB. So you have that breakout, retest, and bounce. And then I would be testing or targeting that 250.98. Let's just call it 250 as a nice round number. All right, so that's what I've got for this week. Thank you very much for being with me. Hope you've enjoyed this review. If you have any questions, you can hit me up in the room, DM me on Twitter, shoot me an email, text message me, whatever. I'm always here for you guys. So let me know if you have any questions, and good luck in the markets this week.